Come, let me take a walk with Brother Tiki. You'll see our landmarks and our monuments. They're so unique. The hybrid structure in life.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to Kaieteur Radio. I am Kevin Smith and welcome to your news at noon. Let's get to the news in detail. In the petroleum sector, suppliers of goods and services do significant work for large multinationals like ExxonMobil and Shell Corporation. But there is overwhelming evidence that has shown over the years just how endemic corruption can be between oil companies and suppliers. According to research and analysis conducted by the Natural Resource Governance Institute, or NRGI, on this matter, it was found that 64% of petroleum projects reviewed in over 40 countries were over budget due to incidents of corruption. One area that saw such high cost overruns was exploration costs, said NRGI. In Guyana, NRGI pointed out that exploration costs are estimated to be $4.58 billion based on estimates provided by Rystad Energy, a Norwegian consultancy. Given what it has observed from its research, NRGI advised that Guyana should check these costs, which were racked up with suppliers, to ensure they are correct. It also urged Guyana to consider the impact of exemptions in the oil sector. And in other news, Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield, Deputy CEO Roxanne Myers, and Region 4 RO Claremont Mingo were yesterday terminated as employees of GCOM based on the terms of their contracts. GCOM Chairperson Claudette Singh explained that the termination of the contracts of the three employees was made possible as they had no security of tenure. It was said nonetheless that the trio will leave GCOM with all of their benefits in keeping with the arrangements of their contracts. The three former GCOM officials were dismissed after government-nominated commissioners Sez Gunraj, Manoj Narayan and Bibi Shadiq moved a motion for termination of the contracts and voted for it. The three opposition-nominated commissioners Vincent Alexander, Charles Corbin and Desmond Trotman abstained from the vote. And in other news, wanted bulletins were yesterday issued by the Guyana Police Force for three persons, suspects, involved in the multi-million-dollar gold heist at Wallison Enterprise and Gordon Street, Kitty, Georgetown. Among the three are Antonia Mirage, also known as Pluckin or Thuggy, who is currently out on bail for allegedly beating and robbing a Land of Canaan woman in her yard of her Samsung Galaxy cell phone. Also wanted by the cops is Daquan King, called Titus or Kwani, a taxi driver who cops says was the driver who transported the gunmen to and from Wallison Enterprise. The other is Jamal Hazel. Anyone who might have information leading to the arrest of these three men can contact the police on telephone numbers 226-7065, 226-1928, 911, or the nearest police station. And moving on. According to international media house S&P Global Platts, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency advised the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to begin incorporating the social cost of carbon into its environmental reviews. Considering the climate change impacts of natural gas infrastructure projects could help the Commission put a dollar value on harm caused by project emissions, the EPA said. That recommendation was consistent in recent comments filed by officials from regional EPA offices about draft environmental reviews for various projects. The Commission's approach to considering climate change impacts in permitting decisions continue to evolve, while its staff has been at an impasse, repeatedly saying that the draft reviews released so far that they are unable to determine significance when it comes to climate change. And in other news, protesting Londoners who were camped out at the Mackenzie-Wismar Bridge as they prepared for a long-haul blockage followed the appeal of Member of Parliament Jermaine Figuera and Pastor Nigel London to clear the blockage. Following the announcement made on Wednesday evening by the Ministry of Health, which stipulates that healthcare workers, public transportation operators and conductors will be given 2 weeks to comply with the mandatory vaccination order. Figuera urged the residents to open the bridge following the announcement, which would pave the way for further consultation on the issue. The duo also ensured that healthcare workers who turned up for the 21-hour shift at the Linden Hospital complex were allowed in. And moving on. According to the community lawyer for the Ejama Ibubu people, Lucius Nwosu, Anglo-Dutch energy giant Shell will pay the affected people 45.7 billion naira, or $110.9 million US, in compensation to put an end to a legal case that began in 1991. Shell approached a court in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, on Wednesday to disclose the development. Shell will pay the agreed sum within 21 days, Nwosu said. And moving on, even as the Liza Unity FPSO vessel nears completion in a Singapore shipyard to set sail for Guyana in the latter half of this year, the converted Very Large Crude Carrier, now called Prosperity, has arrived in the said facility for its topsides installation. The vessel is currently moored alongside the almost completed Liza Unity in the Keppel shipyard in Singapore. The announcement was made by SBM Offshore yesterday, the Dutch floater specialist that had won the bid to supply multiple FPSOs for Esso, the operator of the Stabroek Block. And at this time, we now head over to our COVID-19 update. The Ministry of Health yesterday announced that 2 more persons who tested positive for COVID-19 have died. The latest fatalities are that of 2 women, a 64-year-old from Region 6 and a 51-year-old from Region 3. As a result, the country's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 569. 88 new infections were recorded, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 23,244. There are 80 persons in institutional isolation, 16 patients in the COVID-19 ICU, 731 persons in home isolation, and 1 in institutional isolation. To date, a total of 21,848 persons have recovered from the virus. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 36, time for your page 7. In the Kaieteur News dedicated to being blunt. An accused soldier had a change of heart after clearing his head. We suggest that leaders in the PPP government and the APNU-AFC opposition do the same. President Ali, Vice President Jagdeo, Minister Barrett, and opposition leader Harman all need to engage in much clearing of their heads. Their heads are in the wrong place with Guyana's oil. Their heads have been confused and corrupted by association with Exxon and others. The President, Vice President, Natural Resources Minister, and opposition leader have all lost their heads and surrendered in their minds. They're not thinking of all Guyanese, but of themselves. Worse still, they're all thinking of what is best for Exxon. They all need to do like that soldier and start clearing their heads so they can represent Guyana better and stop making fools of themselves. And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's Newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465.